Hello and welcome to today's Temkin Group webinar, Lessons in CX Excellence 2015. My name is Aimee Lucas. I'm a CX Transformist and Vice President with Temkin Group, and I will be spending the next 45 minutes or so with you sharing highlights from our latest report, actually released today, that is really all about the winners and finalists of our annual Customer Experience Excellence Awards and what those organizations are doing to build their customer experience strategy and sustain that strategy throughout their organization. A couple of housekeeping items. You'll notice on the left-hand side of your screen there is a chat function. That chat function is there for you to submit questions if you should have any. As we go along, I will do my best to answer them as I see them, and we'll have time at the end where I can answer them as well. I'll do my best. I've really dove into what these organizations have shared about their practice, but I might not be able to answer your question in detail off of what I've tried to jam into my brain. So if you have some questions on some of the examples that I share that I can't answer for you on the webinar, I'll make a note and we'll follow up one-on-one with you just so that I make sure I'm sharing the accurate reporting of what they've done as opposed to relying on my memory on the fly. You'll also see a link, a URL, there in the chat window currently, and that will take you to our blog where the report is posted. So as I looked at the registration list, I did notice that we had some folks who I've not seen on our registration list in the past. So just a quick moment on who Temkin Group is. Temkin Group is an independent research and advisory company that focuses 100% on customer experience. And it was founded in 2010 by Bruce Temkin, and it's based on 4 core beliefs that I think you will see exemplified in some of the examples I share today, and beliefs around which we build and focus our research. One is that customer experience does drive loyalty. We do see that good customer experiences create customers that are more willing to continue to do business with you, try new products and services from you, and recommend you to others, as well as are more willing to forgive you should you make a mistake. We also believe that customer experience is a journey, not a project, and it's a journey that takes time and takes patience, and will cut across all of the parts of the organization as companies pursue customer centricity, and that improvement requires systemic change, that it is not just about a strong vision and goal about what the organization wants to do to embody customer centricity, but how they are changing both their operating processes and their culture to be able to reflect that goal or that vision. And so that's a little bit about us, and you can learn more about our research and our services at temkingroup.com. So let's get started. And to level set, I'd like to start with our definition of what customer experience is. And we see customer experience as the perception that customers have of their interactions with an organization. And perception is a key word there. We as an organization don't know what the customer experience is until our customers tell us. We have a plan of the interaction that we want to create. We have designed it, hopefully carefully, to do what we want it to do. But until we hear from our customers that, in fact, that's what we did in their eyes, we don't know. And we believe that customer experience is made up of 3 elements: success, effort, and emotion. The first piece is success, and that's the degree to which customers can accomplish their goals. Could they do the task? Could we check the box? Yes, they were successful getting that thing done that they wanted to do. And companies actually can get that yes box checked even if the experience itself is not so hot. So the first piece, success. Can the customer do what he or she wanted to do? The second element is effort, and that's how easy or difficult it was for the customer to accomplish his or her goals. And, I think we can all agree that if it's too hard for the customer to do something with you, they're not going to be successful with that thing that they set out to do. A customer is going to stay on that path towards accomplishing its a goal with your organization, so long as they feel they are going to be successful. And how they feel about the effort they're putting into it has a lot to do with that feeling. And then the third element is emotion. How does the interaction make the customer feel? And this is important. This is really about, how are we thinking about the emotional requirements of that interaction, because in our research we see that the emotional element of the experience is the one most strongly connected to driving loyalty, strongly connected to create those raving fans that we want. And so while we can design an experience where the customer is successful, changing their address with you or returning a product, we can make it relatively easy when we understand what easy means to the customer. It takes a really good deep level of understanding about our customers to create those emotions that are going to make that experience a positive one, that's going to create that strong memory, that's going to drive that loyalty that we want from them. And when we think about customer experience management, there's really two goals for that organizations are pursuing at a very high level. One is designing interactions that enable the desired experiences that allow the customer to successfully do what they wanted to do relatively easily, feeling good about it. But it's also about creating a culture that sustains those customer-centric behaviors. And I think you'll see a balance of the thinking about how to design, understanding customers so experiences can be well designed, as well as an emphasis on culture in our award finalists and winners that I'll be sharing shortly. And then when we step back on an annual basis, we ask customer experience professionals about their goals for the year. And one of the questions that we ask first is what is your overall customer experience that your company delivers today? This is data from large organizations, and we're actually in the process of getting our updated data right now. And last year, 6% of organizations kind of raised their hand to say, yes, today we are delivering best in our industry. Nobody was quite brave enough to raise their hand to say we were better than everybody else. But then we also asked the question, what's your goal in 3 years? And 58% of respondents indicated that in 3 years they wanted to be best in industry or best overall. And that's fantastic. That is a lot of ambition out there that is showing that organizations are putting some thought and hopefully the right investments and efforts into designing those interactions to create those desired experiences and building the culture internally that will support it. Why this ambition? What's driving 58% of organizations to say, we want to be best overall? Well, it's because great customer experience leads to many wonderful things. We do a lot of research on the benefits that come out and the ROI of positive and strong customer experience. And so a few tidbits are here on the slide right now. This is drawn from a free infographic that we released on October 1st of last year. So if you need more data tidbits, I encourage you to go find the Ultimate Customer Experience infographic from 2014. But the data that you see on the left-hand side of the screen is really about the benefits that customer experience leaders have around the loyalty of their customers. Customer experience leaders are those who have stronger customer experience ratings than the laggards who are below their industry average. Customer experience leaders benefit from 17.5% more customers who are likely to buy more from them. They have 13.3% more customers who are likely to forgive them if they make a mistake. And let's be honest, as much as we drive for consistency in execution and mistake-free experiences, mistakes happen, but customer experience leaders benefit from a higher forgiveness rating than the customer experience laggards. And overall, customer experience leaders, companies with higher than average experiences relative to their industry peers, are 21 point higher net promoter score. So a score that represents the likelihood of customers to recommend their business to others. The other thing that we see in terms of good customer experiences is sometimes there are bad experiences that companies work to recover from. And so the data that you see on the left-hand side is how customers or consumers change their spending after they have a bad experience based on the company's response. The the scale across the bottom is how well the company responded, so obviously from very poor to very good. And when the bad experience was followed by a very poor or poor recovery, you can see 62% of consumers decreased their spending to completely stopped their spending with the organization. On the flip side, after a bad experience, if the response was very good, there was some recovery. 29% of those consumers who had the bad experience followed by a very good response increased their spending. Now, the moral to that side of the slide is not, well, let's have bad experiences and respond very well. First and foremost, let's stop the bad experiences from happening in the first place. But we need to be prepared when bad experiences happen to respond well in order to reduce that abandonment, that loss of loyalty that can result. So let's dive into our Customer Experience Excellence Awards. These awards are something that we do annually because we recognize that across industries, across sectors, companies are finding ways to improve their customer experience in a sustainable manner, and we want to highlight those efforts. And because we recognize that customer experience transformation is a journey, not just a single program, the nominees that we seek and that we judge and that we recognize don't need to be completely done with their journey. They just need to be right there, going along on their way. We look and judge the nominees across three criteria: the transformation, what improvements have been and are being made in the 4 customer experience core competencies, the results, how has that effort created value for customers and for the company, and then the sustainability, how well has the company set itself up for ongoing success. The judges represented a cross-section of industry professionals. We had Ginger Conlin, Editor-in-Chief of Direct Marketing News, along with Bob Thompson, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Customer Think from the media side. Shep Hyken is the Chief Amazement Officer at Shepherd Presentations and a prolific author and customer service expert and speaker. Along with Ingrid Lindberg, she's the Customer Experience Officer at Prime Therapeutics, a proven change management and customer strategy expert with previous leadership roles at Cigna and Ceridian Benefits. Bruce Temkin and then myself were the judges. And first, congratulations to our winners who we announced last year: Dell, EMC, and Touchpoint Services. Dell, a technology company, their CX efforts start with an emphasis on listening to and engaging with customers and employees. They put an emphasis on enlisting different groups from across the company, including engineering, marketing, sales, support, their digital channels, to make improvements to the entire customer journey. And as a result of this work, some of the things that they've done, they, through listening to customers, ended up opening 16 solution centers, a place where customers can go to really hands-on experience different Dell offerings and provide proactive support over a wide variety of social channels, as well as put effort into simplifying Dell.com for both their consumer and their business users. EMC, who was also a winner last year, has their Total Customer Experience, TCE, program that works across the enterprise to enhance their customers' experience. They focus on customer feedback, on data analysis, and then taking very directed actions based on that feedback and analysis. And then they do put a lot of time into raising awareness across the organization about the role every person plays in impacting the customer. They now, as their program has really matured and evolved, have moved their own focus in TCE onto more challenging areas. They're now doing predictive customer experience analytics. They are focusing on measuring their partner experience and the quality of the partner experience, and then stretching out their focus to look at additional customer segments and solution lines. And then finally, Touchpoint Support Services, which comes out of the healthcare space. This is an organization that provides support services within healthcare facilities. And they really are built around a set of business goals that they call top-of-mind objectives that guides the work of their 6,800 associates. They look at both improving patient satisfaction and associate engagement, along with finding their inefficiencies in their processes, focusing on safety, and of course in that space, budget compliance. And they use a lot of different methods for aligning employees with these top-of-mind objectives, and I'm going to share a little bit about some of those later, but a really interesting mix of winners. And then our finalists here on the right-hand side of the screen: Activision, Aetna, Crowe-Horwath, the results companies, and Texas NIC USA, which is the entity responsible for Texas.gov and the governmental websites that the state of Texas has. These organizations have also, all done very good work in their own individual customer journeys. Activision Customer Care is the arm of the gaming company. These are the video games that you or your kids might play, but they really have focused on improving the player experience and built that around their voice of the gamer insights and the feedback they're collecting to improve that experience, as well as build higher and better quality games. And they have a robust group of players not game players, but players on their CX team that help do this. They have player experience program managers and analysts who watch service levels and player sentiment trends and behaviors, and then they dedicate resources to coaching and training their support agents on root cause analysis, gameplay guidelines, and how to make it good for the customer. So they're really focusing on listening and then driving action and training and insight across the organization. Aetna, also in the healthcare space, is focusing its 2020 vision on making the company 100% customer-centric and has put in place a number of changes to help achieve this goal, a lot of which have been focused on their call center and supporting the agents to make sure they've got the behaviors and skill sets to best support their members, as well as investing in text and speech analytics to better identify customer pain points in order to take action on those. Crowe-Horwath is a public accounting firm and consulting firm, and they have done a lot of work starting with building a firm-wide governance model and measurement scorecard, implementing a closed-loop voice of customer program, and incorporating customer journey mapping to uncover moments of truth. And those efforts have also led to a variety of ways that they're engaging their employees through training, through recognition, and an employee ambassador program, some of which I'll be sharing later. The Results Company is a business process outsourcing provider that provides, among many things, phone support on behalf of organizations. And they use their own unique operating model that they call CX360 that helps to drive continuous process refinements of their own to improve their customers' customer experience. And they built this around three pillars: people, knowledge, and empowerment, in order to kind of help its 8,500 employees around the world remain focused on customer experience. And then finally, I'll say Texas.gov for short. As I mentioned, they provide the support for the Texas.gov website and the technology solutions for the Texas governmental agencies. They have over 50,000 monthly site visitors and support 300 different state and local entities. And so they support those different touch points through a multi-channeled customer service approach with a general service help desk, both phone and online, a service desk to support the more specialized governmental agency needs, and then technology subject matter experts who can provide escalated assistance to either citizens or agency employees when the need arises. So they recognize the need to both be efficient but also have the knowledge and skills at different levels to serve their mixed customer base. One of the things when the nominees submit their form is they share with us what they're doing across the 4 customer experience core competencies: purposeful leadership, compelling brand values, customer connectedness, and employee engagement. And what I'm going to do now is share some examples of what these companies are doing across each of these 4 core competencies. We focus on these 4 core competencies because we believe that if organizations want to raise their level of customer experience maturity, it starts with mastering each of these. So let's start with purposeful leadership. Excuse me. As you can imagine, it's that time of year, coughs and colds. So purposeful leadership is about how leaders of the organization operate consistently with a clear, well-articulated set of values. What is key with this core competency is it's not about having words on a poster or a screensaver, but it's about having that clear purpose that aligns the day-to-day decision makings about how the company is run. It's about acting consistently to that clear purpose and making it very visible to the organization in both how leaders are communicating, but also how leaders are acting, and continuously marketing it to the organization, doing as much marketing internally as externally around what the company is all about. One of the ways that customer experience excellence comes through when we think about this core competency is that leaders take an active role. And so as I mentioned earlier, the results company, they're the business process outsourcers who provide support services on behalf of their clients. They have an operating model that they call CX360. And it defines very clearly what needs to be done for key areas of the business, such as operations, training, security, infrastructure, etc., but also by role. So for managers, for supervisors, for site directors. And they then kind of roll and embed this CX360 operating model out, starting with their leaders. And one of the things that they've done is a piece that they call Master the Big Five. To be successful with their people, they have explicitly defined what it takes from the leader, and that is hiring the best people, developing people for unprecedented results, creating employee satisfaction, building strong teams, and driving key metrics. Leaders and managers at the organization go through 2 Master the Big Five workshops as they progress up the organization, and there are supporting processes that have been created around employee reviews, around using a matrix management style, and around how to communicate information across the organization and with their teams that supports these 5 areas. The other thing that they do is make sure it's not just about mastering the Big Five, but there is a regular focus on how CX360 is doing day by day across the organization. So leaders regularly get together to share their CX success and improvement plans across sites on a quarterly basis. Part of these quarterly meetings includes reviewing results of their CX360 pulse audits that they do. These pulse audits are done monthly across the organization, and it checks on the execution of the goals and objectives of the company. And those results are then rolled back into these quarterly discussions where they talk about what's working and what needs to change. And then annually, leaders head up individual steering committees to assess how well each of their sites is executing on the CX360 model. And this kind of emphasis on monthly pulse audits, quarterly sharing, annual assessments is driven by a belief that it comes down to consistency, that consistency is key to great customer experience. And so they have really put their leaders at the center of that focus to say, are we doing the things we need to be doing to support CX 360 so that it's executed consistently wherever we are around the globe? Another way that purposeful leadership comes to life in excellent CX organizations is that leaders model the importance of listening to both employees as well as listening to customers. And so a couple of examples, and these are not the only examples of this in action as I share. I've tried to give you a cross-section from our finalists and winners. But I'll start with Activision. Activision's efforts include an Agent for a Day program. This is targeted at senior executives where they spend a day on the front line, and they are there with their support agents providing assistance to customers over the phone and through the live chat function. They are constrained to the same rules and checklists and procedures that the agents are constrained to. And one of the sort of ahas that comes out of this program for Activision is that these executives are able to spot when there are sort of policies or procedures that are originating in their areas of the business that they need to address. The second thing that they do is they hold a player experience summit. And here's where they bring together their cross-functional leaders to instill a shared vision of what the player experience principles are. Excuse me. And from this, they are forming a player experience steering committee to keep that cross-functional involvement part of their efforts going forward. The second examples come from Texas.gov. Here they do, again, this idea of sharing monthly thought leadership calls where leaders across the state portals are bringing their best practices and innovations forward. One of the things that feeds this call is an ongoing listening program that leaders engage in with their employees to make sure their ears are tuned to what's going on the front lines within their respective departments. Executives are also involved in mentoring help desk and service desk agents. This is twofold. It helps keep those leaders close to the day-to-day experiences that customers and employees are happening, and it keeps them close to an inbound flow of employee and customer feedback. And again, that learning then is reflected back into their ongoing efforts. The second core competency is compelling brand values. And here, this is the question we seek to answer here is, are your brand attributes driving the decisions about how you treat customers? For us, the brand is the fabric that aligns all employees with customers in pursuit of a common cause. And it's really the set of promises that an organization is making to customers that the organization and its employees embrace through communication, through training, et cetera, so that your employees can keep those promises day to day to day and live up to them in every interaction. Brand values guiding actions is a big part of that coming to life. One example of this is Aetna. Aetna has 4 core values that are integrated into their customer experience efforts: integrity, excellence, inspiration, and caring. And as an example of the caring value, one of the things that they've done is to create a resolution team to take over interactions with customers where the phone agents who originally got the call felt could turn into a complaint. The resolution specialists are equipped with special knowledge and training on intervening in these instances, and really with an emphasis on making the customer feel cared for, demonstrating that empathy. And so they've been thoughtful about all 4 of these values on how they bring them through life through very specific approaches that they've put in place across all aspects of its business. Touchpoint Support Services has an overarching brand promise of compassion at every point of human contact. Now, again, Touchpoint is the company that goes in and provides a lot of the support services inside health systems at hospitals. These could be the people who are bringing the meals to a patient's room, who are the orderlies moving them from the lab back to their room or back to an office. And so they have also very thoughtfully designed interactions around that promise, that pledge, and then have aligned their employee recognition programs to reinforce and recognize when employees are living up to that promise. So there's a few different things that they have as part of those recognition programs. The first are pat on the back cards. These are simple things that employees can hand out to each other, that supervisors can pass on to employees, recognizing very small gestures of good service, little day-to-day things that get noticed, that are demonstrations of good service and demonstrating compassion at every point of human contact. They also have an above and beyond program, and this is online nominations for demonstrating exceptional customer experience on the job. So when an employee is kind of caught doing really, really good work, nominated online for above and beyond to get recognition for sort of bigger demonstrations of this promise. And then the Go Beyond reward recognizes hard work in achieving the company's core values. And so you might pick up on the fact that above and beyond and go beyond are sort of repetitive. And what Touchpoint has done is they have created this acronym BEYOND made up of their core values. So for BEYOND, we have be kind, every person, every time, you are the experience, own it, notice it, deliver it. And they really honed down and simplified what does it mean to have compassion at every point of human contact. It's about going above and beyond. Be kind, every person, every time, you are the experience, own it, notice it, deliver it. And that really is driving how their brand values guide the actions to their employees. And that's all supported by training and sample scripting and ways to talk and interact with patients and others. Now, brand values very easily flows into and fuels employee engagement. And employee engagement, when we think about it in terms of customer experience or really anything that's going on in a company, it's about how are we getting employees fully committed to the goals of the organization. And employee engagement is important. One of our 6 laws of customer experience is that unengaged employees don't create engaged customers. And engaged customers are the ones that are loyal to you. And so strategies and plans are just things on paper until we get the hearts and minds of our people involved. And so a few examples from our finalists and winners, one of which is training employees to be successful. Instruct is one of our 5 I's of employee engagement. Employees need to feel like they've got the knowledge and skills that they need to be successful. And training in all different shapes and forms that it comes in is a way to help fulfill that need of employees. This example comes from Dell, and a lot of Dell's focus has been the ever-growing online and social interactions that customers are creating in order to get questions answered, to seek help, seek assistance. And so they created their Social Media and Communities University, affectionately known as SmackU, that trains employees on how to listen and respond to customers. Over 9,000 team members have been certified to be part of this program and then engage through their different online chats, social media, et cetera, channels. And then part of their rewards and recognition programs, not exclusively focused on activities in the social sphere, but across the company, is a quarterly customer advocate award that recognizes employees who, excel at listening to customers and helping them accomplish their goals and objectives. And so these interactions are part of that work. And there are a lot of different examples of the training and development programs that these organizations are doing to help their employees. Another part of engaging employees is helping employees stay focused on their goals, helping them know what's important. And this ties back to purposeful leadership. It ties back to compelling brand values. Because when we think about it, employees hear a lot of different messages at work every day. But if we can cement in their minds and reinforce to them what is really important, it becomes the guardrails of that path they are traveling day by day. So even in those instances where they forget the script, they forget the checklist, they forget the 5 steps or the 10 steps or the 15 steps that they're supposed to do, with those guardrails in place and a clear understanding of what's important, and that is reinforced consistently for them, they're probably going to make the right decisions on how to treat their customers, how to treat their fellow employees. And so I really liked the blend of things that Touchpoint is doing with their employees in terms of this. They first have created a top-of-mind card. A lot of leading customer experience organizations have had great success bringing what they want to do down into something that employees can have with them all the time. And Touchpoint is no different. The top-of-mind card, which you see there on the slide, focuses on 5 questions that, in this case, this is a leadership-oriented one. What are your patient and resident satisfaction scores? What are you doing to promote unity? How are you performing versus your savings plan, so that cost containment, budget containment that I mentioned earlier? What are you doing to promote safety? And what are your associate engagement scores? What are you doing to increase those? So 5 questions that triggers that thought process, a constant reminder of the goals those leaders should be pursuing. Line-up meetings, as it implies, these are regular meetings where teams get together to talk about their top-of-mind objectives, what's been working, what feedback have they been getting, what's the focus, sharing their experiences, so that they are reinforced not just on a card but in discussion and emphasis by spending time talking about them. Unity Week is a week that they have put in place across their sites to recognize how each employee makes Touchpoint special, that it's really about the work collectively that all of the individuals together do. And during this Unity Week, they do things like have a group service project. They do joint lineup meetings that cross departments, so there's even more sharing and discussion. They plan unity lunches at each location. They organize job swaps so that employees can experience other roles in the organization. And there's an emphasis for leaders to do thank you cards and thank you gifts for their team members, so that they really are recognizing how each person is playing a key part. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Go Beyond recognition platform, that combination of awards that is recognizing living those core values, the everyday examples of good service, and then the above and beyond, the exceptional service demonstration by their employees. And then on a related note, aligning rewards and recognition, another one of our 6 laws of customer experience is that employees do what is measured, incented, and celebrated. And so if we want employees to change behaviors, we've got to not only make sure they're clear on what those behaviors are, but that we're finding ways to recognize when they're doing the right things. So these examples come from Crow Horwath. They have a variety of different ways they're recognizing how their employees are contributing to their goals of delivering an exceptional customer experience. And the first are recognize alerts. Recognize alerts are interesting because these are customer initiated. In their survey process that they do with their customers, the customers have the opportunity to recognize an employee who's gone above and beyond, share that employee's name, what did the employee do, and that comes in and is flagged as a recognize alert, and that recognize alert gets into the hands of the partner in charge of that customer account and is able to then share that with the person who is recognized, his or her manager, and others on the team. The pay it forward allows employees to recognize others who are part of their work recognized by clients. So very often in their worlds, they're an accounting and consulting firm. there might be one person who the client said was that one who went above and beyond and didn't realize the one or two or five other people who were there burning the midnight oil to make sure everything came together. So the pay it forward allows that recognized employee to share and to say it wasn't just me, it was this other group of my fellow employees who really made this experience happen. On an annual basis, they have the Exceptional Customer Experience Award, where they recognize in each business unit the employees who have received the most recognized alerts from clients. And then they also have their Living Our Values Awards, and this is something that it can be nominated by anyone in the firm for employees who demonstrate their core values, which are care, share, invest, and grow. Those awards then, they're physical, tangible pins, one for each of the values, and then there's a display case, so as employees receive multiple awards, they're able to put each of the little values there together in a display. And then the final core competency is customer connectedness. And this is about how is the organization using customer feedback and insights across the organization to inform its decision-making, to help people better understand what's working and not working, to really understand, are we pushing our customers down a path to loyalty or pushing our customers down a path towards abandonment? One of the ways that customer connectedness comes to life is about actively gathering and using qualitative feedback. Now, this sort of shift to a more and more of a focus on that unstructured data that is coming into a company is a trend that we have recognized for more than a few years. There is gold in those words that customers are sharing with us, whether those words are in survey comments, in call center notes, in call recordings, in sales team notes. There is a rich pool of insights to draw from in that qualitative feedback that's coming into an organization. One of the organizations that is putting an emphasis on this is EMC. EMC has created an advocacy tool that pulls together qualitative feedback that's coming in from formal customer interviews, formal partner interviews, as well as other ad hoc qualitative feedback that's coming into them from conversations at events, exchanges at customer forums, and other sources. And they've developed this to augment the survey-based feedback that they're getting from their Voice of Customer and Voice of Partner programs. The qualitative inputs are centrally housed, and it allows users to filter by region, by industry, by the stage of the customer journey, and other things to find out what are customers talking about, what are customers saying. In this advocacy tool, they have text analytics that allows them to make sense of the massive data that they have, and then they've got built-in closed-loop processes that trigger alerts both for kind of hot issues that need to be resolved directly with an individual customer right away, as well as to look at and identify systemic issues and then know which customers they need to follow up with once those systemic issues have been addressed, or if at least there's a plan in place to address them. In addition, it's about gathering and sharing customer insights. We have a model for an effective closed-loop VOC program that includes one of the D's is disseminate. It's great to get information in, but if we don't get into the hands of the people who need that information to make smarter decisions about how they can serve customers in whatever role they have, your feedback program is falling short. So Activision had one of a number of examples of how these organizations are gathering and sharing customer insights across the organization. They monitor a number of sources of their voice of gamer feedback, from surveys, including web intercept surveys, social media, live chat, and phone interactions. They have a gamer insights dashboard that they use to distribute results real time across the organization. It includes sentiment, it includes customer satisfaction, as well as effort, and looking at all three of those things and what's going on. And then they also pull their Voice of Gamer feedback into product launch reports on a daily basis if there's relevant information that's feeding products that are about to be launched, as well as monthly leadership reviews so that it stays in front of that group as well. And then finally, use a closed loop voice of the customer process. Closing the loop with customers so they know that you've heard them and that there's been some thought or discussion around what they shared and how the company is responding is important. And Dell has done some good work in this area. And one of the biggest gains that they cited in their nomination was the integration into their sales team's system of record to trigger real-time alerts to sales team members for detractor responses that need immediate follow-up. Detractor, for those of you not familiar with the term, is one of the levels that comes out, or the categorizations that comes out of the Net Promoter Score methodology. Detractors are those who, obviously by the name, are not happy to some degree or a great degree to the experience that they had, not likely to recommend you. And so when there is a detractor, alerts are triggered, 100% of those are followed up. But they don't just focus on detractors, and I think this is important when you think about your own closed-loop voice of customer program. They also have an activating promoters program. Promoters, as the name implies, are those who are very favorably inclined towards you and likely to recommend you. And this triggers follow-up calls to thank them for their feedback, thank them for their business, and to offer additional key insights. So they're not just closing the loop with those who aren't happy. They're closing the loop with those who are happy. Surveys are also reviewed during the account planning process twice a year, and then overall results for the organization and filtered down appropriately are included on executive leadership agendas, talked about at the top of the meeting. So they put a big emphasis from the top down, but have also put in place the processes to support a very direct one-on-one closed-loop processes that their sales team can drive. So the moral of the story, when we're thinking about what does it take to achieve customer experience excellence, it does take thinking about and focusing on all 4 customer experience core competencies. They all play a part in creating a sustainable customer experience, as our winners and our finalists have demonstrated. And the report itself, I think, is about 100 pages. The report includes some snippets and highlights, but it includes the full nomination forms of all of the 8 finalists, including the 3 winners, and goes into the detail they shared about their program and their efforts. And so, the return on this effort, which they also outline, I think demonstrates that they certainly feel the effort is worth it. From Activision and Aetna, with the changes that they made to how they're listening to customers, the emphasis they're placing on that, and how they're making changes in developing more customer-centric behaviors in their employees, both of them cite higher customer satisfaction scores, fewer repeat calls through their support lines, and lower reported customer effort. Crowe-Horwath has seen improvement in the individual engagement drivers that they measure of 12 to 25%, and have also been able to show that by shifting clients from the engaged level to the highly engaged level, that shift creates a set of clients who are twice as likely to recommend the firm. They increase their spend at a higher rate, and they have a higher level of realization or profitability. And then EMC has seen a 153% increase in customer satisfaction with its tech support as a result of using predictive analytics to proactively follow up with dissatisfied clients. It's a program that they have put in place where they're able to analyze and predict based on the interaction before they even send a survey to the customer who's likely to be most dissatisfied, and proactively reach out to offer additional assistance and help without even having to put the customer through the work of filling out a survey. And in this program to improve their business partners' experience, so not only are they focusing on their customers, they're also focusing on their channel partners' experience. They've seen an 11-point improvement in satisfaction with partner quality and 146% increase in partner NPS as well. So both their customer-facing and partner-facing efforts have driven improvements. And again, those are just a couple of examples from the set of customers. So I'll pause here and watch for any questions that come through, and again, remind you that the research that and the summary of the details of what I've summarized here is in the report Lessons in CX Excellence. If you're interested in focusing on improving in a couple of the areas I've highlighted, we have resource pages set up, one for Voice of Customer and NPS programs. You can find at tinyurl.com/TGNPS. And if employee engagement is something that you're more interested in learning about, tinyurl.com/TGCXEE. These pages pull together a combination of our blog posts, research, videos, etc., that can give you a cross-section of references and information to build from. And then coming up, if you're not webinared out already, we have another webinar a week from today, also at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Bruce Temkin will be leading a session going over his CX trends for 2015, which he has called the Year of the Employee. And so that, I think, will be a great session, and encourage you to register at tinyurl.com CX Trends 2015. And then our first workshop of 2015 is scheduled for Miami Beach, March 17th and 18th. This one is our Mapping and Improving Your Customer's Journey. Teaches you an approach to customer journey mapping and provides you with the knowledge and the resources you need to lead those sessions inside your organization if you should so choose, while working on developing your own map during the training. And I see a question. Oh, and a good question. Do you still see problems with leaders seeing CX as a worthy investment, understanding its value? I think the answer to that is it's continuously a challenge, and I think one of the reasons why it's a challenge is reinforced in the top obstacle that we hear from customer experience professionals in their pursuit of their goals and objectives is other competing priorities. Even in organizations where customer experience is one of their core goals, other things are going on, and so there is a constant sort of competition for mind share and for resources and for people to drive those efforts forward. And I think where we see the most success is in those organizations where the top leadership is ready and has said, this is important, this is something that we need to be, because I mean it's our first competency. The message starts at the top. That top CX leader needs to be very much involved, setting the tone for the organization and setting the example for his or her fellow leaders and for all the way down through the frontline employees of what needs to be done. That being said, I think there's more and more evidence, both research-wise, that we have seen in what customer experience can do in terms of generating a return to the organization, and the ability for organizations to capture data and use data that they have to do some of those calculations and predict some of those benefits, that when we can show, and we say this, customer experience is not something to pursue just because it's the right thing to do. It should be able to support and must support the company's business objectives. And so it's sort of on the shoulders of the customer experience leader to be able to articulate how the customer experience strategy that they're proposing, the recommendations they're making, the path they're laying out, directly ties to the business objectives of the organization, and leverage the data that they've got, use the knowledge they can gain from inside the company to make those connections to show, if this is what's important, here's how the customer experience element supports those business and those brand objectives. And then I see, okay, now I have a few things coming in. It's really interesting. So a related question, and then I'll get to the employee engagement question, but a related question to this is kind of the internal or external environment that prompts senior leaders to pay more than lip service to results in change. And there's always it could be one of two ways. One, that we see, and you see this example with Herb Kelleher at Southwest, and and other places, it's in that leader's heart. Intrinsically, it is important to that leader. It is part of his or her personal DNA, and therefore they bring that customer experience focus or obsession to their organization because it is so important to them. Another smaller kind of example, not small, but Safelite Auto Glass. Their CEO, Tom Feeney, very clearly said, if we're going to accomplish these goals that we have to accomplish, the way we're going to do it is being both customer-centric and people-centric. And he made that his main message and then drove the organization to follow that. So in some cases that it's internal, that there is a person who believes so strongly and is in a position to influence the organization to follow them along and is able to lead them that way. Certainly external factors happen. There is a threat to that organization, whether it's market-driven, competitor-driven, technology-driven, that forces the organization to say, it's time for us to change. And part of that change, or to make sure that we're making the right changes, is we've got to understand our customers better. And that desire and that shift to knowing and recognizing the need to understand our customers better is that tipping point when reacting to some of those external factors. But it's whether it's from an internal fire that someone just believes in their heart that customer experience is critically important, or whether it's driven by an external factor, it comes back to kind of my previous comment. Driven one way or the other, those are going to be successful when customer experience can show that it is helping to drive the bigger, broader business objectives, and how increasing customer loyalty will help the firm accomplish its financial goals and objectives. Then there's another question out here about employee engagement being important and how much HR organizations are seeing customer experience and employee development merge and collaborate. And interestingly enough, this is something that we research. We take a look at the state of employee engagement activities in the organization, and we've done some research directly with HR professionals as well as with customer experience professionals on their working relationships with each other. And we definitely see in organizations where the customer experience team and the HR team have found a way to work together. I haven't had to say this stat in a while, but I want to say, and I'll follow up with you because I know who asked this question, so I'll get you the exact stat. But it's something like they are 50% more likely to be in that customer experience leader category, meaning their customer experience is above the industry average, than organizations where the CX team and the HR team haven't figured out a way to make it work together. And then we're continuing to see, especially in certain elements of employee engagement, where those working relationships are coming together. Now, this is tough because, HR has its whole own host of things that it's got to do, priorities on its plate, and some of the data that we see says there's not always necessarily kind of the skills or the organizational imperative yet for those two organizations to work together. But when HR and CX can collaborate and combine their efforts when it comes to engaging employees in the company's customer experience transformation, it's incredibly powerful, because then we're able to look at and influence how are employees measured and managed, what goals and objectives and performance expectations are laid out for them. How are we syncing up the rewards and recognition programs that are often run through HR? How are we listening to employees? Again, HR is typically the place that controls the, quote, employee survey, if there is one done. And how do we make that a more valuable tool for the organization to inform its efforts or to extend the listening to other ways? And then all the way back to how are we hiring? How are we making sure we're bringing in the right people that are going to have what we need to be part of this customer experience journey that we're on? So we're seeing where they do come together, it getting better. We only have 1 year of data. We'll have a second year of data this year to see how the collaboration on very specific employee engagement activities is shifting. but I'll follow up with you to point you to some specific data on what we're seeing there. Good questions, everybody, and we're at the top of the hour. So on that note, here's my information. If you do have any additional questions that you would like me to answer, please drop me a message. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your carving out some time, and hopefully you'll be able to join Bruce next week for his webinar. Have a great rest of your day.